Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We provide you with the exciting news, Betrayal in the Palace, how Camilla allegedly tried to rewrite the king's will. An insider source reports that tensions inside the palace are escalating as King Charles grapples with feelings of betrayal upon discovering Camilla's attempts to sway his will. The source said that King Charles allegedly expelled Queen Camilla after a contentious dispute on the inheritance of Prince Louis and Princess Charlotte. This video will examine how Camilla influenced King Charles's last will, the reasons for King Charles's anger, and the measures he took to safeguard his grandchildren's inheritance. This move might ruin the carefully maintained impression of unity that prevails within the House of Windsor and Buckingham Palace, has become the center of a royal crisis that has never happened before. King Charles III has allegedly told Queen Camilla to leave the palace because of the shocking news that someone was trying to remove his grandchildren Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis from his will. Different parts of the royal family have given us this knowledge. The breakup has sent shockwaves across the monarchy, showing a significant divide between the king and queen consort. A longtime advisor has called it the most profound internal crisis since the abdication. After being shown legal documents that indicated the changes that were being made to his final will and testament, the king was said to have been incandescent with rage and utterly betrayed. He didn't ask for or agree to these modifications, and they made him feel extremely violated and outraged. During a fight, the king is said to have told his wife, "This is not your decision to make." Sources describe the fight as chillingly quiet but utterly final. Because of the fallout, Queen Camilla left her royal quarters in a discreet way, and her future role and relationship with the king are now very uncertain. The palace is desperately attempting to downplay the effects by issuing brief statements about private family matters, but the entire world is watching and wondering whether this rupture will ruin the basis of King Charles's young reign. Whispers Before Dawn is about solving a mystery. It has been said that the crisis began not with a shout, but with a tense stillness. When King Charles got to breakfast on what was meant to be a normal morning, he saw that Queen Camilla's place at the table was empty. It was unusual for her to go without telling anybody, but it wasn't unheard of. An aide said that the king was visibly unsettled, which meant that he was feeling quite uneasy, and it showed on his face long before the real cause was revealed. It rapidly became clear that he was right to be worried. A senior assistant with a pale complexion and a stiff posture walked into the breakfast room, carrying a large envelope of cream-colored paper that had been sealed with the wax of the Crown's secret legal office. A footman who was standing close reported that the assistant spoke in a solemn and professional way, "Your Majesty, this has arrived for you." The communication came straight from the legal office and was marked as secret. The word "directly" was the first hint that anything was wrong. When it came to the king's will, there were no unsolicited drafts, since they were highly personal and up to his own judgment. The king opened the seal when he was alone in the big room. The only sound was the ticking of a mantel clock. The paper that was found in the box was called Amendments to the Last Will and Testament of His Majesty King Charles III. It was serious and businesslike. He couldn't get enough air. He hadn't agreed to any of those alterations. While he was reading the legal wording, his eyes fell on the paragraph that listed the people who would get his money, which was a gift that was separate from the Crown estate. He found out that something was missing at that place. He had forgotten the names of his two younger grandchildren, Princess Charlotte and Prince Louis of Wales. He had entirely forgotten about them. It was evident and intentional that the measures he had personally overseen to make sure of their future were left out. A source close to the king said the shock was deep and visceral. But the handwritten note that came with the manuscript made the astonishment transform into a fierce rage. The royal lawyers got a short, clear order that read, "Proceed with this adjustment as discussed." The order was worded in a way that was both complicated and easy to understand. It was Queen Camilla's, a pattern of quiet persuasion. The parts that make up a betrayal structure. King Charles viewed the document as more than simply a legal draft. It was the end of a series of conversations that he had previously considered were just ideas. People who know about it say that Queen Camilla has spoken about simplifying the royal legacy numerous times in the last year. It was said that she had first thought of it in the king's private study on a dull day a few months before. "You know, Charles," she is said to have said in a humorous way, "it might be wise to simplify things. It's the inheritance." The king thought at the time that she was asking him to cut down on ceremonial costs, or stop spending money on things that weren't necessary. He thought she was telling him to concentrate it where it would really help the monarchy. But on a subsequent occasion over a private supper, the matter was brought up again, this time with more anger. People say that Camilla responded with a hint of anger in her voice. "William's children will always be taken care of. In certain situations, people will inherit estates, positions, and titles. Not everyone may need to see the same part of your personal will. The immediate successor may profit from the concentration of wealth for their personal gain." People stated that the king had frowned, but he was tired after a long day and didn't want to deal with it. He thought these talks were just abstract discussions about the monarchy's long-term plans, and he never thought they would be anything more than that. He didn't regard them as a sign that he was going to make a move against his own grandsons. He saw them as policy talks from the start. He felt completely and utterly ambushed and blindsided, said a close acquaintance. Charlotte and Louis are not strategic assets that need to be handled. They are his beloved grandchildren. Charlotte is the most important person in the palace since she is calm and smart. Louis, on the other hand, has a lot of enthusiasm and happiness that lights up the royal halls. It seemed impossible that anybody, much less his wife, could do anything that would make their role in his legacy less important. Finding the draft changed the meaning of all of those earlier exchanges. They weren't just harmless suggestions anymore. They were also calculated steps in a campaign to change the king's legacy to fit her own image. This picture seems to put a more unified and strict line of succession ahead of the king's personal ties. The betrayal was not only the act itself, it was also the secrecy, the deliberate lies, and the horrible misunderstanding of his most fundamental beliefs that were involved. The confrontation. A crown that is split. Later that day in the afternoon, the fight that was certain to happen took place in a grand sitting room. The poor sunlight did little to warm up the cold atmosphere. As Queen Camilla walked into the room, everyone was quiet. She was dressed nicely and smiled beautifully. Reports suggest that she began by asking, "Charles, you look very serious. Is there a problem?" The king turned his head to look at her when she spoke. He was standing motionless. He held the folded paper in his hand. His voice was harsh and cold when he said, "Why is that?" An assistant who heard the first talk and then discreetly left the area said that Camilla seemed like she was bewildered. "Why is that? What, my love?" "Look at this," the king said as he handed out the piece of paper. "Those changes. Taking Charlotte and Louis out of my will and estate. Tell me why." The queen consort was only able to calm down for a moment, and at that point her tone changed from casual to practical. As she walked farther into the room, she started their conversation by saying, "I thought it was for the best. It is for the crown. To be realistic, we need to be Charles. Too many divides are bad for the future." There may be times when the institution has to make tough choices. This answer, which was meant to be logical and strategic, instead made the king angrier. He reportedly stood up and spoke more harshly. "What are the hard choices?" "Camilla, these are my grandchildren. Everyone. There are numbers on a ledger that need to be lower than they are. You can't just shift them about on a chessboard whenever you want." The queen consort didn't cave in to the pressure. They will receive great care. William is on their side. They have key jobs and titles. The purpose was to provide resources to the next king where they are needed the most. I was thinking about how stable the monarchy would be in the long term. The reports say that this appeal to the monarchy eventually pushed the king over the edge. You can't build a monarchy by kicking people out of it. He reportedly answered, his voice raising for the first time during the argument. "Loyalty, love, and the links that bind us are what hold it together. This act makes us weaker than you could ever imagine, even if you speak about power. Sentiment cannot cloud judgment," Camilla said, insisting that what she did was best for the school. This word, sentiment, hit a nerve, and the fight became worse from there. "How do you feel?" people said that the king's voice echoed through the huge room. "Is that what you call it when a grandpa makes sure that his grandkids are part of his family's history?" What feelings? He accused her of going behind his back, giving orders in his name, and acting like she had the last say over his will and family. Camilla shot back, "I did it because I knew you wouldn't do it yourself." Her voice finally lost its calmness. "I simply knew you wouldn't do it. You are so tied to this. It's not always easy to see what has to be done." The king's voice became quieter as he got closer, and it was scarier than any scream that could have been heard. "Don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Don't mistake my love for blindness. And don't ever think that you have the right to decide what my family means to me," he said, speaking slowly and clearly. "You can't fix the harm you've done by crossing a line." The king's decree, a ban that has never happened before. Not long after they had a heated argument, the event that would change everything happened. The argument was over, and in its place came a heavy silence that was hard to bear. At that point, King Charles gave the ultimatum, and a member of the staff said that his resolve was absolute and terrifying. "You have no choice but to leave," he remarked in a calm but powerful voice. "For now, and maybe forever." This was the first time Queen Camilla seemed really shocked. "Depart," she said softly, her face pallid and worried. "I don't think you're serious." The king kept his cool and remarked, "I have never been more serious." This was not a decision taken in anger. The option was made to protect what matters. You seem to have forgotten that love and commitment are not something that can be traded for strategic gain. After that, he turned back and quietly but firmly informed an attendant who was waiting in the hallway, "See that Her Majesty's things are ready while staying out of sight." There was no room for appeal since the decision was so decisive. Witnesses reported that the queen consort looked like she had lost totally. The last thing she uttered in a shaky voice was, "Is this how it ends?" The king's answer was vague and unkind. "It's up to you to decide. For now, this is very important." Queen Camilla turned around and left the room without saying a word. She paused at the door for a moment, glancing back with an expression that was hard to read, and then she disappeared down the long hallway. Her departure was a huge event in the palace, even though it was completely calm and almost unnoticed by the outside world. The Prince and Princess of Wales's reaction to the tale of their son's allegiance, a special messenger brought a letter from the king to the Prince and Princess of Wales at their country house. The letter told them that the church was splitting up. Princess Catherine was the first person to read it, and her face went pale as she processed what she had read. Reports say that she murmured to Prince William, "He has sent her away. It's Camilla, and it seems like she has left the castle." After reading his father's version of events, Prince William took the letter, and his expression grew more serious as he turned it over. A friend of the couple said that he didn't hesitate to answer, even though the situation was bad. William said in a low but firm voice, he was well within his rights to do it. Catherine asked if he agreed with the decision to send her away, and he said without a doubt, yes. The revelation was shocking to the Prince and Princess of Wales, but it also made prior observations they had made about other people clearer in a way that worried them. Reports say that Princess Catherine recalls many times when she believed Camilla didn't care much for Charlotte and Louis. Charlotte, who was young, turned down a bouquet of wildflowers. Louis, who was 6 at the time, was telling a story to the family over lunch and got distracted. These were both small things that seemed unimportant at the time, but now show a worrying trend. On the other hand, Prince William's loyalty never wavered. He told his wife, "My loyalty is to my father and to my children. His children are his children. You shouldn't try to keep up a pretend calm at the cost of doing what is right. If father thinks something is important, then it is. I will not confront him in any manner." He also made it quite clear that he would not stay silent if anyone spoke badly about his father. It says that the king and his successor have a strong relationship which might be vital in the hard times to come. He promised, "When the time comes, I will speak for him, and I will not hold back." There is a storm coming, and the Queen is in hiding. Queen Camilla has relocated into a secluded home in a distant place so that she won't be seen by the public or the journalists. People say she believes her actions have been horribly misinterpreted and that they were not done out of malice, but out of a misdirected sense of duty to protect the crown's long-term safety. People who have spoken to her say she feels isolated, betrayed, and deeply wronged. A friend of the Queen Consort said that she had been at his side for a long time. She has proved her dedication many times even though the public has criticized her and she has been under a lot of scrutiny. In her eyes, being sacked for what she sees as a strategic disagreement over the future of the monarchy is the worst betrayal. This feeling of unfairness is said to be getting stronger, which is making her more determined to fight back. Even though she hasn't said anything publicly, people in the palace are worried that she won't stay quiet if the story gets stronger against her. As her friend said, "She has fought for her place in this family for more than 30 years, she added. She will not allow herself to be portrayed as the antagonist in the final chapter without first defending both her name and her intentions," the author writes. The palace is doing everything it can to avoid a possible public relations war which sets the stage for such a battle. A fight between the king and queen that became public would not only be emotionally terrible, but it could also damage the monarchy's reputation beyond repair. The palace is very watchful for issues that need to be contained or dealt with. Behind the scenes at Buckingham Palace, a thorough crisis management plan has been put in place. The communications office put out a short statement saying that the royal family has the right to privacy in what is a deeply personal family matter, but the official line of conduct is to stay quiet. On the other hand, the rumors have already started to spread. A leak from a royal insider to a writer working for a tabloid caused a blaze in headlines now scream of a palace rift and royal will row. Public opinion, which has always been a fickle beast, is severely split. Some people are praising the king's paternal impulse to protect his offspring, while others are sympathizing with Camilla and perceiving her as a pragmatist who is being punished for strategic thinking. The discussion is raging on social media and online forums. The timing couldn't have been worse for King Charles. His main goal during the early years of his reign has been to show that he is stable, consistent and determined to do his job. This huge internal struggle makes that effort immediately harder, raising doubts about his judgment and the peace in his own home. That effort is directly undermined. People saw him walking alone around the palace grounds, and the weight of his choice was clear on his face. According to people who know him, he finds comfort in the innocent laughter of his grandkids, who are still blissfully unaware of the storm that is going on around them. He is fighting to protect something, and their presence is a constant and live reminder of what he is fighting for. It was heard that he was muttering to himself, "Not while I draw breath," as a promise to protect his family's heritage from the cold calculation of politics. Toward an uncertain future. The last words and the wound that is still there. Before the news broke, the king and queen consort met one last time. It was a stressful and final meeting. It wasn't a negotiation. It was a clear statement. Reports say that Camilla made one last attempt to explain her actions, saying that she did it to protect everything they had built together. Her voice shook as she said this. The king's response was quite clear. He told her, "Belief is not the same as trust," and she believed him. "You acted without me. I really can't ignore it." He told her the terms of their separation, which included her staying away from the center of royal life and making sure she would never have anything to do with the family's inheritance or private affairs again. He then said, "This is my decision, Camilla, and this is final." The monarchy was left with a huge hole in the middle when she left without any more arguments. The king is still firm in his position today, with help from his successor, Prince William. However, the crisis is not over yet. The fierce and determined queen consort has not been defeated, even though she has been hurt. Both the general public and the press are keeping a close eye on her. The king made a choice that was more important than a husband's choice in order to protect his family. However, by doing so, he may have started a fire that could threaten the very institution he has promised to protect and defend. A new and more severe storm is brewing on the horizon, and it could shake the kingdom to its very foundations. The peace that had been there since the beginning of the Carolean period has been broken. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.